Morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses on Gotham Day. Always a great day, always an exciting day as we get closer and closer to spring. Jonathan Kinchin joining me, Andy Serling, and excited for Gotham Day?
Always excited. These Triple Crown prep races are always fun. We can. There's a lot of things that our game does wrong. The Kentucky Derby is one thing that we do very right, and it's fun to get excited about it.
I agree. You know, I was looking through the Busher at the winners of it. The Bushers actually had a lot of good horses have run in that race. Some went in relatively recent years. I was looking at search results. Won it a few years ago. Was second in the Oaks. Won the Acorn. It's Tricky, who won 3 Grade 1s last year. Jody's Pride won it, and that was her first start since being second in the Breeders' Cup. So we'll see what happens. I think both are very competitive races. We'll talk about them in all 10 races. You'll head over to Naira Bets first. Use the promo code MATCH200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. Play through Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime, any place, even while you're riding Chancellor McPatrick. Track stats, check them out when you're over at Naira Bets as well. We also have a Derby bankroll builder. Bet 50 to win in the Gotham. And there you go, $20 for the Kentucky Derby. Thank you for that. Eddie's really on the ball today. It's early. I expect him to fall off dramatically as the show starts progressing. We have a cross-country Big Five as well, which has 3 from Oakland, 2 here, including our 9th race. Starts with the Gotham as the 9th, which is a good allowance race. And I know one of your favorite races, the Down the Dusty Road. She was maybe the best Archie bred. I want to say she won the LeBray or something. I know she's a very, very good horse. I can't think of that song, the ELO song. It's not Down the Dusty Road, but you've seen American Hustle.
I've seen the movie American Hustle.
There's the song in it that's
I do not know what song you're talking about.
It's an ELO song. That's not the same name, but it's similar.
But I was 1 to 9 to not know that.
No, well, you saw American Hustle. American Hustle is an incredibly entertaining movie. Yeah. Very, very fun. Anyway, what else? We have a show. 2 to 5:55. Drop dead time at 5:55. So I don't know if there'll be the backstretch for a race at Oaklawn, but we'll see what happens. That's today's show. Jonathan and I will be on for 2 hours together and hours without each other. Bookending race number 1. Well, there ain't any form in race number 1, so you know this is a bit of a dartboard. So listen, when I got to deal with a dartboard, and I thought the 4 was dangerous, I think about picking that horse actually on top. I went to the Grateful Dead horse, Unbroken Chain. Obviously, the horse didn't do a lot of running first time out. It was a track that was very speed friendly. It was a better field in all likelihood than he's facing today, and I just put him on top on the drop down. But there's nothing. I don't know what you can say about this race, Jonathan.
No, there's really not. A lot to say. I thought the horse on the inside would be bet, putting the blinkers on, having some experience, giving someone a speed figure to kind of build off of. And he was 58 to 1, and he didn't do that much running, so I didn't need him.
No, that's fair.
Absolutely
and that was a pretty tough field he was in.
Yeah.
To be fair, that was a pretty competitive race, and obviously we'll talk about it because it's a big factor in today's last race. So you have a story with Bruce Levine, or you're just taking a shot?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of trainers in here that are great first time out, so I at least trusted him to a certain extent there. And the horse has been pretty consistent. If you look through the work tab, has been working consistently since December 2nd.
All right.
So at least the fitness is going to be there, and that's, like you said, it's a dartboard.
Yeah, I went to horses, the 2 of the 3 horses with experience, putting the 3 in there as well for second, actually scratching the horse for second. But to sit here and pretend that we have a strong opinion in this race is kind of silly, and I think anybody that's looked at it would agree with that. Race number 2, we'll take a look at Grand Commander's debut, and then he ran into Colloquial in his last start, who just sort of blew everybody away and probably would have won a stake with this performance. This is his debut. He ran very well. I am concerned. Even though he wasn't beating Colloquial, he did take a step back second time. But the truth is, if he's able to run anywhere close to his first start, he's going to win this race in all likelihood. And he might even win even if he runs his second start.
Yeah, look, he was second to T-Craft. T-Craft beat Chancellor McPatrick one time. So, obviously, this horse is really good.
He's over. He's actually won races for Lee Einseidler, so he must be really good. The song is The Long Black Road. The Long Black Road. That's my friend Steven's text.
Good. Good.
Nick's, I think Tamro's a big ELO fan.
Who is
Believe
ELO?
it or not. Electric Light Orchestra?
Never
Jeff
heard.
Lynne?
Never heard of him. I usually know something that you're talking about. When you do this to me, I have an idea.
Okay,
I just
you
don't
know songs by the Electric Light Orchestra.
I'd have to, I mean, I probably have heard one.
Jeff Lynne's also in the Traveling Wilburys that you're not familiar with either.
Never heard of them either.
There was a super band with Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, George Harrison, Tom Petty, and Jeff Lynne.
I knew 3 of those people that you said.
Don't worry. Don't worry, we got a really good one for today's last race, so don't worry. There's going to be more fun with Jonathan. Anyway, we're not trying to beat this horse.
No, I'm not trying to beat him at all. This is a very formful race for me. I have the 4 Bourbon for Toby right there behind it. I thought this horse has had some excuses and runs well. Probably needs to break a little bit cleaner, but he did last time.
Tom Morley does not have good numbers turning horses back. Bourbon for Tony is clearly the logical second horse. I'm not thrilled. And I thought the 7, I know the 7 looks a little bit cheap, but I thought the 7 might be interesting. You know me, I'm a sucker for horses trained by Dave Duggan. It's worked for me. And I also thought Toga d'Oro is a horse that could run better. I mean, anybody coming out of that colloquial race, I want to give another look at because none of them had a chance. And that race just strung out. I think colloquial is probably one of the horses that a lot of us are looking forward to seeing run again next time he shows up.
Yeah, the only fear I had with the 8 is that he just didn't break that great last time. And when you have these horses making their second start, you don't know if it's because that was their first start that they didn't break well, or is this who they are?
I agree. It's usually the first start, and I think the fact that he has an outside post
Helps, yeah.
probably helps mitigate that a little bit. See what happens in race number 2. I think we agree in race number 3, and a big scratch in here. I mean, Linda Rice had to scratch a horse today, so she did it early. She sort of got out of her system. And we'll take a look at Proud Divvy's last race at Parks. I'm curious. The reason that I picked this horse, I think that figure might be too low last time out. I think that 47 is not a fair representative of the race, and I think this horse may be closer to the 63 that she ran at Churchill Downs in her prior dirt start, even though it was on a muddy track. And I just thought she might be a little better than the figure looked.
Yeah, I completely agree, and this is just one that just feels like she's going to be loose, right? So even if you don't love even if you're still questioning that number, you'd like to think that this one will be able to handle with a nice trip.
Don't you worry that Heman Harkey's going to send Mo to Morning Grouch? I mean, he's a very aggressive rider. And I know that horse is a hard horse to make in the race, but don't you think that horse has some speed in here?
Some. But the last couple of races, the horse hasn't had much speed. I mean, it could definitely happen. I feel like the 5 should be clear, though. The pace figures suggest that the 5 should be clear.
The 5 is faster. I don't disagree. I'm just wondering if Heman's aggressive. And, Moonlit Weekend is obviously one of the horses that can win in here, and he's the second choice with the scratches, or she is, excuse me. I know she's dropping down, and listen, she is the logical other horse, but I'm not thrilled with her. Mia Nipotina, maybe she liked winning. She won finally in her 18th start last time, and maybe she'll just, find out that she likes winning. I don't think she's impossible in here.
No, it's just, I just think that she found the right group last time.
I don't disagree.
And that's what helped her get over. If you look through her, her losing streak, that was the shortest price she ever was, and kind of, significantly as well.
The track. Last weekend, we obviously were dealing with an extreme gold rail throughout the entire weekend. I think there's been arguments on both days that the rail was the place to be, but certainly 2 days ago, the track seemed a little fairer. Yesterday, I think the rail was a big advantage, and I'm hopeful that the track is going to be more fair today, but I think it's something that has to be discussed because it has been a big part of the results over the last, 5 racing days.
And it's funny because typically...
It's fair here.
Yeah, Glenn, and then also typically Glenn will try to fix it if it's that way. And you don't usually see a long stretch of biases.
No, I agree. I mean, I do the track trends every day, and for the most part, I find these tracks fair here. No. So we'll see what happens today, and hopefully we have a much more fair track, especially for a big day. Race number 4. Can we show the second replay first, since both of us picked Top Gunner? Thank you very much. I think, Jonathan, this is a race, and you and I obviously have the one side of the opinion as we look at Top Gunner's race, where you make a decision. You say, I'm going to believe in Top Gunner's last fig, and I'm going to believe that maybe setting the lead is what helped him in there, and if he runs that number, he's going to win this race. But the fact is, if you draw a line through his last race, he's like an 8-to-1 shot in this race, and he ain't going to be 8-to-1. So I don't have any problem with somebody that wants to take the contra opinion. You and I just believe in his last race. He runs this race. He will smoke this field.
So the tricky part about him is I believe in his last race. I'm a little concerned that big number happened when he also was adding Lasix, and he's now off again.
That's fair.
But the one thing that made me feel more comfortable with it...
It's not copacetic with his prior races on Lasix.
Right, exactly. Is that Surveillance, who's the 6th horse in here, actually basically matched that figure from the Top Gunner race that math makes me feel comfortable that the top gunner number was real, but I still have the fear about the Lasix. But if he runs his race, it's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder a little bit if they've realized kind of the answer with him is to be aggressive. You know, I wonder if that's the thing, because he didn't really project to be the speed last time.
Yeah.
Clear the Air was in there, and they just sent him hard out of the gate, and I just wonder if that's what they're going to do again. And maybe he's just a better horse if you put him on the lead. I'm wondering if that was one of the things that played a role in it. Because I didn't think the last track was biased at all. I thought it was a very fair racetrack. I don't think he was carried by the track. He ran a huge race. But, you know, when you look at Running Son of a Gun and Full Moon Madness, the horses that are coming out of the toboggan, they're more solid runners, and we'll take a look at that race. My problem with Full Moon Madness, and we'll show the start of the race, is he can't get out of the gate. This is the second time in a row that he's dramatically hurt himself by getting left. Maybe he's helped by cutting back to 6 furlongs, but I'm not taking him in a race like this if he can't get out of the gate. Running Son of a Gun, he doesn't win a lot, but he is about as honest a horse at this level as you can find.
Just consistent, just shows up. You know, he's second, third, second, third. But they're not like those second and thirds that make you annoyed. He just got beat by horses that ran better than him. I completely agree. I think he's a very cool horse that I'd love to own as a 6-year-old gelding.
No, he's been amazing, and I think the Toscanos have done a great job with him. I think they claimed him for a fairly minimal amount and have done extremely well with him. I do think we have to talk about Bold Journey, and he's an interesting contra to the horse that we picked, Top Gunner, because he has a opposite running style. We'll take a look at him winning the Gravesend last year. I do feel as though his last race was not that bad. I thought, you know, he was in a race where there wasn't a lot of pace in there. He made a middle move. He really seemed like a horse that needed the race. The problem with him is I just don't know that he's going to get the pace to run at. But if you're against Top Gunner, I guess you make the case that this pace could fall apart a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake, to your point, to not like him because of his last race.
I agree.
I think if you don't like him, it's because you don't think he's going to get a good setup today. And that's for me the reason I was kind of played against him. I thought he actually ran pretty well last time, considering the fact the worst position to be in, chasing a slow pace, is wide. Right. Now you're having 2 bad things happen to you. And that's exactly what happened to him.
No, I completely agree with that. I think his last race will look worse than it is, and he's actually a horse that Eric Cancel fits well, because Eric likes to drop the anchor like no rider in the game. And he's a horse that you're probably better off dropping the anchor and just sort of hoping that things, you know, fall in your face instead of trying to get him into the game. Let him drop back, find his rhythm, and if he runs his good race, he's pretty good, this horse. Now, whether or not he'll get to those races again remains to be seen. That's the Tom Fool, which is our prep for the Carter, which is coming up on Wood Memorial Day. Race number 5. I didn't have a lot of replays to go to, so I'm going to kind of boorishly go back to the replay from 2 back with both Embraceable Gal and Ariana Rye and show the last half mile, because Ariana Rye, who's forward at this point, is going to get completely and totally shuffled out of this race, number 5, and virtually back to last. I know she's sitting third in the rail, and it's sort of hard to believe. She ran a very, very good race. Last time out, she was a bit compromised. I think there was a speed edge to the track on February 8th, and La Banquera has suddenly found sort of crazy form. This race, however, would make her very, very tough in here. I don't know what exactly to do with her, Jonathan. I put her second.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, as you talk about this race where she got shuffled back, she showed some courage down there, which makes me feel a little bit better because she's drawn the rail here as well. I like to see horses that can run well down there if they're going to be down there, and she's one that can. I just thought she might be a little overbet in here, and that's why I ended up going with the 7, Catchphrase, who I tried to look this up. Is this like the new WinStar trainer?
Amelia Green, she was an assistant to Todd for a long time, and she just went on her own about 2 months or so ago. I think she had, I believe that this wasn't her first start. She won with her first starter.
Okay, good.
And she's obviously extremely capable. She just hasn't had many starts.
Yeah, well, WinStar does that. They did it with Rudolph Brissett. They give young trainers that they have experience with them working for other trainers that they use shots with good horses. If
she was good enough to work for Todd Pletcher for a long time, I think she's good enough to bet on her horses. I mean, I don't mean, you know, Todd's not hiring guys. I mean, you look at some of the people out in the game that train for him. Obviously, George comes to mind, but others as well. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just not sure she's that good. I know she's the speed. I don't know, man. I'm not confident that this horse is that good.
Yeah, well, it's not a confident situation.
Money.
She did. I mean, yeah, she ran well last time though.
I think a lot of horses can win this race. I honestly do. I took a shot with Santagata because Santagata is going to be a big price in here, and I just didn't want to endorse the 2, the 7, all horses that can win. I don't like entries. I thought the 1 was a little interesting, but obviously you can't bet her with Embraceable Gal as part of the entry. And Santagata, I'd like to say I'm betting Santagata because the horse is named for Nick Santagata. I actually, who is one of my favorite guys. He's a ballot here, but of course, all the horse players know Nick Santagata. Nick won a lot of races the hard way. He rode everywhere. He rode night and day in New York in the Meadowlands, and he's just a great guy. I love Nick. So, but I don't think this horse is named for him actually, because I joke around with him. This horse comes out of a maiden race where the fig is too low. You look at the second place finisher: 64, 48, 60, 67. I looked at other horses in the race. I think there's an argument that this race might be really closer to a 65 to a 70, in which case this horse is somewhat competitive. And for a horse that's going to probably be double-digit odds, I don't trust the horse. I do love Horacio de Paz, and I think he does an amazing job. And I just thought I was looking for some kind of stranger in here, and I've had a sort of a thing for this horse. He's been entered and scratched a lot. Today, hasn't been entered in a while. He was vet scratched quite a while. He's running today. I'm giving him a shot.
Yeah, I mean,
Look, a huge price.
Yeah, I remember when he won it. When he won here, it was
Closing weekend.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's all right, and I can always root for a horse, even if it's not named for Nick Santagata. I'll pretend it is. That's the 5th. We've got 5 more to go. The late pick 5 and a lot of stakes. We'll be right back.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Welcome back, Jonathan and Andy. The Stymie. I do love that the Stymie got downgraded, even though the winner of this race a few years ago won the Breeders' Cup Classic that year. But listen, as long as the Vanity and the American Oaks keep those Grade 1 ratings, I'm good. Just make sure you keep those Grade 3 races and Grade 1s out there, so you could downgrade this from a Grade 3 to a listed. And do it to the Schuylerville. A race has been run for 9,000 years on opening day at Saratoga. The pettiest move in the history of the Graded Stakes Committee: leave the Schuylerville a Grade 3. It's the opening day feature at Saratoga. Give me a break. It's not like you're that precise. Don't give me that argument. But I got that off my chest. I know I know a horse owner, not who you're thinking of, who made the suggestion to somebody I know that I should be going to the Graded Stakes Committee to put the fear of God into them. Anyhow, we'll start out with Bank Frenzy here. And it'll be interesting. Bank Frenzy's 2-1. Yo Daddy's 4-1. I have trouble believing that Yo Daddy is going to be that big a price. My problem with Bank Frenzy is I'm just not sure this horse is going to get enough pace to close into.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely his best races. It feels like the paces have been honest enough. Those back-to-back wins, the paces were honest. I guess at Saratoga, the pace wasn't crazy, but he did get that great trip up the inside when Flavian was just absolutely on fire. Look, I like this horse. I just worried about the situation from a pace standpoint.
Yeah, that was. I'm with you exactly. He's very good. He's been in great form. I don't like your horse, Coastal Mission. I can't bet him off his last race, Jonathan. What was your excuse for him?
I don't know. I guess maybe he needed it. It's more, he was wide around there. I'm kind of excited for him to get a little bit more distance. I thought that not having to be hustled, his pace figures in his last race that he lost were significantly faster than he runs early in races like the Cigar Mile or the 49er or even the Parks Dirt Mile. So, I just am hoping that going a little bit further is going to allow him to find a little bit of a better rhythm.
All right. I feel like he's going to get bet a little in reputation. And I was so disappointed in his last race that I'm not going to play him. But he's obviously got some merits. I think Yo Daddy, we'll take a look at his last race. I think I'm going to go back for him, actually, when he was in a competitive race and he ran really well. I'll tell you something. This horse has gotten extremely good for Linda. This was some claim for $50,000.
Yeah, and this horse is pretty good on the turf, too.
He can run on any surface, this horse.
I honestly just thought and David hardly gets it wrong. I just thought this horse was going to be much shorter.
Yeah, I don't agree with David that he's going to be 4-1. Geez, I thought he'd be sort of the co-favorite with the number. I mean, you know, listen, he's so much better than I would ever be at these things. So when I disagree with him, I usually assume I'm wrong. But I find him a lot easier to bet than Coastal Mission, but Coastal Mission is stake face, so he probably gets bet. I'm going to bet Worcester in here. I've seen a lot of dead shows in Worcester. You ever been to Worcester Centrum?
Where's that at?
Worcester, Massachusetts. It's near Boston.
I've
Massachusetts.
only been to Boston. I've only flown out of Boston.
Really? You've never been to Boston?
Never been. I mean, there's not too many big cities I've
Go
never
to like
been
a
to.
Celtic game, or you never been to Fenway? Fenway's the greatest. You gotta go to Fenway. And you gotta watch the Cavs put that hurting on the Celts last night.
I saw the highlight.
They were down 25-3. They cut it to 52-50, I think. They went back down by 18, and then they still ran them down. I love the
basketball
Cavs.
team.
I love the Cavs. My feeling with Worcester, maybe this is probably a horrible opinion, but I kept looking at him and thinking of Post Time, right? Who came here last year with Brittany Russell, and I thought Post Time, they have that silly award, what's it called, the Vox Populi? Post Time should have won that award. Wasn't he like the lunch pail working man's horse that showed up in every race around the country and never ran a bad race? I mean, I thought he was like maybe one of the coolest horses of last year, if not sort of the coolest horse. This is a horse that began his career running high 90 buyers for Bob Baffert. It's not as though this horse doesn't have the credentials to be pretty good. And he's a horse that can be forward. He can drop back and the pace is hotter. I think he's going to be in a stalking position today. And I just kind of wanted him as a new face that would be the fourth choice in this race.
Yeah, I had no problem. I had no problem with this one. I thought this was a pretty tough race. I think that this is probably one where if I was playing a multi-race, I would need all four of the horses that we've picked.
I don't disagree. I think any of these horses can win the race. I'm a little bit against a Coastal Mission, but I'm not going to be shocked if I'm wrong about that. I saw I saw all but two dead shows of the Worcester Centrum. I was there when they sang Happy Birthday to Bill Walton, and all the Celtics were on the wings of the stage, and you could see Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale and all the guys sort of standing around. It was pretty great, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That was November 5th, I want to say 1985. All right, maybe the 4th. The Busher. Thought this was a super tough race, and I was really interested to see that you and I agreed in this race. But let's start with Volleyball Princess, the 4, a horse that you and I have left out. And, you know, you could say this horse was the last time, was the time horse. But she's 8-1 on the line, and nobody's picking her, so she's going to be a big price again if you want to bet on her. And to be fair, if she runs back to her last race, she can win. But I don't know about you, Jonathan. I kind of want to see it again.
Yeah, I mean, she was 8 clear, you know. It's like she was in her own little race here. She's going to have more talented horses looking her in the eyes at some point. And, I mean, look, if she goes off at 8-1, I'm not going to talk anyone off of taking a shot.
I would, yeah. I agree with that.
I just think she's going to have to prove it to me.
I completely agree with that. And we'll talk about the horse that you and I picked next in Liam the Dust, and I'm going to show her Pocahontas. I don't know about you, but for me, I like her at this distance, and I would love to see Machado send her from the rail.
Well, I like the rail draw because I feel like it takes the decision out of it. Like, what are you going to do? Take back?
Right.
Try to circle around? Just hold that position, like Richie would say if he was here. Get your position moving forward. And the other thing, too, is
I miss Richie, by the way.
I do. I actually texted him last night.
Yeah.
We went to a Rangers game, so I
Did
sent
you?
him a picture.
Really?
You know, I knew he'd get excited about that.
Do you know hockey? Have you heard of
Yeah,
hockey?
I know a little bit of
Okay,
hockey.
I'm just
Yeah,
checking.
I know a little bit of hockey.
Okay. You ever think of going to be like, I just can't resist making fun of you.
I understand that. The Pocahontas in September of the 2-year-old year, that race is almost good enough to win this one.
I completely agree, and we know Lucara is a good horse, and I thought she ran very, very well in that race. I agree. I'm kind of a fan of this horse, and I'm not going to. I know that Mohima disappointed last time. I think she showed that she probably can't rate, to be honest with you, in her last race, because she worked out a perfect trip and just couldn't finish rating. Maybe she wants to go shorter, but she's kept good company. I think she's super logical. And the other thing is, I was thinking of picking Ramify, but I looked at David's line, and I was sort of interested in the inside 3 horses, and he's got Ramify the shortest price of all of them. One thing I like about Ramify is that I think that she was badly against the track last time. That was a big speed track, and she had no real chance. And that's why I would take her over Sharp Smile, because I liked her first race, but I don't want her at 3-1 or 7-2.
Yeah. I have no problem singling a highly regarded Chad or Brad Cox or Baffert or Todd.
We know that.
But these are the ones I despise, where they like are gonna take money by default. They never really took money. She was 3-1 in both of her starts. I think she probably was fortunate to win the first race. She got a nice little.
She ran pretty well though. She did run pretty well,
but not that fast. And they're gonna bet her, especially when they see the Juddmonte silks. They're gonna bet her like she's
those
better
Juddmonte
than
silks. They're like a drug for people, aren't they? They really are. They like people see them and they just start getting woozy,
They get you
weak at the
going.
knees.
Yeah.
You
No, they
imagine
get you going.
Frankel and listen. They've had a lot of amazing horses over the years, but I tend to agree with that. She's fascinating. We'll take a look at her last race, and you've got her second. I'm against her. My concern with her, honestly, is Lasix.
Yeah, I mean that was the race that kind of got her to jump up. The reason I made the reason I allowed that not to throw me off is that she didn't run fast. This is what I told myself. She didn't run fast two back because it was a sloppy racetrack, and
No, that's fair.
She didn't want to run on the turf.
That's perfectly fair.
That's how I accepted this performance.
I was a little bit concerned about how badly Stone Cold Kelly, who ran second here with a big trip, did the other day. Now, she was probably against the racetrack a little bit, so that hurt her, but still, that kind of bothered me a little bit. I think Drexel Hill is extremely dangerous in this race, and you start taking her apart. She's only got 2 races because they're the 2 dirt races, and she just got a ridiculous trip 2 races back. She was completely and totally buried down on the rail. And I don't think there's anything wrong with her last race. I actually think she ran pretty well last time, chasing outside the sloppy track, got a big figure from there. I think she's extremely dangerous too, cutting back from 2 turns to 1.
I completely, and she's obviously better on dirt, but she wasn't bad on synthetic. And I like horses that can show some ability in different scenarios, right? It just shows talent to me. I've got no problem with this horse. Takes the blinkers off. Probably needs a little bit of pace to close into.
That's why I preferred the 1 because she's more forward, and this horse has no speed. That's absolutely the reason.
She had speed
that I didn't
last
put her
time,
on
but
top.
I don't buy that.
she's
I
not
think
gonna
it was
be-
the racetrack. Yeah.
She's not going to be that forward in here. But and anybody that's not familiar with the rider, he's an English rider, but he also rode Magnitude. And I thought you gave him a pretty good ride when he won the race.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Whit Beckman had that horse Honor Marie that Ben Curtis rode. I think he's got.
Well, Whit, you know Whit.
Yeah.
Well, Whit worked for Chad. Yeah, he was an assistant for Chad Brown. I think he worked for Todd as well. But I think that horse very dangerous. Anybody else we should talk about? Sharp Smile. I've got her 4th. I don't know what to do with her. I will say one thing: the Cox horses have been running very well.
Yeah.
I didn't love her, and she's 3-1 morning line.
I feel very similarly to with the 9 that I do with the 3. Just like
The 2, you mean? The 9?
The 2. Excuse me. Yes, Ramify. Just the same thing. It's Brad Cox, and it doesn't have to win, and it's going to be bet like there's a better chance, I think, than.
At least she's a little more forward, which I think is going to help her chances a little bit. We'll see what happens in the Busher, which is points towards the Kentucky Oaks. And, looking through Busher, the only horse that won the Busher, won the Oaks, was Princess Silmar, but search results, who was second and won the Acorn, won this race a few years ago. Jody's Pride won it last year, was coming off her second, the Breeders' Cup. One of my favorite horses won this race. It's Tricky.
It's tricky.
I loved It's Tricky. Tricky won the Acorn. She won the CCA Oaks. She was second to Royal Delta in the Breeders' Cup.
And I'm going to go out on a limb. Is this the Godolphin that Irad won his first Grade 1 on?
No, that's Questing.
Questing. That's right.
Irad didn't. You know who actually? I wouldn't have been able to remember this if I hadn't looked it up. Eddie Castro rode her when she won the Acorn. She beat. I think she beat Turbulent Descent, who was that fast California horse.
Yeah.
Was
Mike Pipey.
Yeah, it was an odds-on favorite in there. The Gotham. I just want to say I feel extremely bad for the connections of Scorching. I mean, they shipped this horse to New York 2 months ago to prepare for this race, and then he spiked a fever yesterday. I mean, that is just the epitome of the bad luck of horse racing. To be here training for it, and whether he won or not, it's sort of a raw deal. And I also think it's fascinating that the first 3 choices in this race are all New York breds. The first 3 morning line choices, the 3, 4, and 5. And we'll start the conversation with Sand Devil, who is absolutely the horse to beat. We'll take a look at the last race where he beat National Identity, who Sacrosanct beat, and we'll look at Sacrosanct right after this replay. My one concern is they're going to be moving up front in this race. Sacrosanct is going, and Sand Devil's no slow poke either, and he's going to have to put away Sacrosanct and hold off horses that he's better than, but horses with perhaps some upside.
You just basically summed up why I picked McAfee, because I feel like this.
You didn't want Reagan to yell at you, or was Reagan going to cry if you didn't pick McAfee?
No,
Tell
no,
the truth.
I mean, it's one of those. You know how it is. If you know a little bit more of the backstory, you can digest it a little
horse
bit
can
better.
win.
Yeah, of course.
Can absolutely
With the setup.
win. Well, here's Sacramento. I just feel like these two are going to hook up.
They have. They look. If you covered up their names and quickly looked, they look similar. They look like the same horses. You know.
I think Sandoval's a little better. And I'm not knocking Sacrosanct. Now, Sacrosanct was lucky to
drawn
win
better,
this
too.
race because Soon to Be King got completely stopped in the inside. But having said that, even if he ran second, you would have said he ran the best race, and he ran extremely well given the pace. But I just think they're going to be moving a little bit up front.
And I agree with you that Sandoval's better, and I also think that he's drawn better to
Yes.
take advantage of the fact that he's better than Sacrosanct. I just think I think they're going to hook up. I feel like they kind of have to hook up.
I don't disagree, and I'm not sure Garamon's going to be that far from them. We'll get to Garamond in a minute. Talk about McAfee.
Yeah, McAfee's just a horse that, I think that he's been unlucky. He got scratched in the Jerome for a superficial.
He's been a odd vet scratch situation.
Yes. And just full disclosure, it was like a superficial skin-looking thing is why he was scratched. It wasn't necessarily a soundness thing. I just think that this horse is going to get a perfect setup in here. And I think that, Rick Dutrow obviously has been absolutely on fire, making the right choices, the right decisions. You'd like to think that, in this one-turn mile especially, they're going to be
Going to be a good price. He comes out of a good race. And, the other thing is that Rick cross-entered him at Parks. Yeah. He could have waited to run a much easier spot at Parks, and he's going to run here. And obviously there's a much more upside and more money in running in this race. But Rick's no fool. And I'm not saying he's going to win, and, he's a bit of a price, but I think he'd do worse. There are a lot of horses that can win this race. Flood Zone, the 7, is one to talk about. I'm going to be very curious what price he goes off, because on the surface of things, he ran a big figure last time. My problem is making figures for Gulfstream dirt races is a fool's errand, because they run so few of them, and they're all hours apart. And it's very, very hard. I have a lot of trouble believing this figure. The second horse ran 19 Beyer points worse. The third horse was at 18-1. Brian Lynch firster. I know, and I really wonder what they paid for this horse. I'm extremely interested in what they paid for this horse. This horse is, to me, is either a great bet if he's 12-1 or absolute fool's gold.
My biggest fear with him is, isn't he going to get hooked in here? Brad doesn't take speed away from horses.
He's not fast enough to run with those horses early, and if he does, he's going to get himself into a lot of trouble. So we'll see. Garamond. I will say one thing about Garamond. We'll take a look at him winning last time at Tampa. Chad Brown told me before this race, he said, I'm going to win with this horse at Tampa, and I'm going to go to the Gotham. Now, he didn't say I'm going to win the Gotham. He said I'm going to go. So he's been right so far. I'm just not sure he beat much of a field this day, Jonathan.
Yeah, you're right. But I do think that, this is one of those horses opposite to Ramify earlier, the race before, that you're going to get an okay price.
Yep.
If this horse was 3-1, I would be completely against. But in a situation like this, the horse could take a step forward. Now you get this added distance. One thing I'll say about Chad's horses, it's not very often that his horses don't stretch out because of the way he trains his horses. They're trained to stay in the bridle. They don't work overly fast. They listen to the cues of their rider, and I think that has a lot to do with getting a horse to stretch out.
Yeah, I don't have a huge problem with him. I'm just not sure. I think even at 8-1 in this race, he's a bit of an underleg, and I think there's a lot of different horses in here. I picked Calling Card, and my feeling with Calling Card is, and I say this with nothing but love because Kirk Wyckoff, who owns Three Diamonds, is a good friend of mine. I think they kind of blew it with him. I don't know why they shipped this New York bred out of town. And what did he do well? And I should have brought this replay up, was win his maiden race. He runs back to that maiden race where not only did he win by 17 and run a giant figure, he didn't even break. It's not like he had a good trip. He didn't break, and he just went on a rush the entire way around the track. He runs that race. I think there's a good chance this field's in a world of hurt. And you look at him. They go down to Oaklawn Park. He runs against Sandmare's improving. And he was wide chasing. Last time out, I don't think he ran that badly in the Lecomte because he was always wide. He was always in bad position. He was always sort of trying to catch up. Now, he's got 6 weeks off since that last race. And he's coming back to doing what he wants to do and run a flat mile in New York. I'm not sure this horse can't just beat these horses. His maiden win was no joke. It was also his first dirt start. It's not like it came out of nowhere. It was the first time he ran in dirt, and I think he might be just good enough to beat these horses.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking me into it now. And the more I look, you look at that race on the turf as well. He sat inside all the way around there, so he's drawn inside here. He's been wide in his last few starts. Maybe he'll be able to save some ground, and he puts the blinkers on too. And it's, to me, I think there's a mistake that people make when they see blinkers. They think they're going to show more speed.
No, that's not why.
Sometimes you can intensify the late run, have him focus a little bit more, and make the late kick. And like you said, he's going to get pace to close into.
I think I also think Normandy Coast is very dangerous. I know Eddie Keneally ships a filly for the Busher as well, probably keeping this one company. Not that I consider that one horse impossible. I think Eddie Keneally is one of these trainers that doesn't have the big horses, so he's not going to get the national exposure and the respect. I mean, this is a guy, Tom Morley worked for him, Brendan Walsh worked for him. I think Eddie Keneally is extremely sharp. And this horse, to me, is a little bit interesting, stretching out of a 6-furlong race. I'm not sure he's good enough. He might just not be good enough. But at 15-1, I'm throwing this horse shipping in here out of respect for how sharp Eddie is.
Well, we said it earlier. I don't remember what horse we were talking about. Maybe it was, Liam in the Dust. This horse has that figure at Ellis Park in July. It makes you like to think if he improves off of that, he's right there with these horses.
I think he's an interesting horse, so we'll see what happens in the Gotham. We do have to get moving here. Race number 9. Let's take a look at Quick to Accuse's race 2 back, because Quick to Accuse falls in that category of Brad Cox's horse that ran a huge race here and then came back when Brad's horses weren't running as well. And now they're starting to run again. They've had like a cycle, good, bad, now they're back to good. I mean, I don't trust him off his last race, but it was a bit of a gimmick speed track that day. And I think if he runs this race, he's going to be a handful in here.
I mean, look, I don't have a lot. He's the horse to beat. I
don't trust him either.
Felt he was going to be overbet, and I thought there was an opportunity to make some money.
You are picking Hagrid's Flame?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with this horse. Since he's moved to Jamie Ness, he's won twice. He does have to get a little bit faster, I think, from a figure standpoint. But now with the other part of the entry being scratched, I think you might actually get a fair number.
No, I don't think he's impossible, and I think they are going to be moving up front in this race. The King Cheek is supposed to be speed for our friend Marshall. I picked him fourth. I'm not against him. I'm giving Landor another chance. We'll take a look at his last race. The stumble at the start was more of a bobble, and it was a bobble forward, so it didn't affect him. I just felt like he was running in spots. It's like he was closer early. He dropped back. I thought he wasn't running at all, and then he came running again at the end. He's coming off a little bit of a layoff. I've always liked this horse. He is obviously going to have to continue to get better in all likelihood to beat this field, but I don't love anybody in here. I think there's a lot of horses in here that might be going a little bit in the wrong direction. I agree with you on the one, but I think Landoro, this may be the day.
He's supposed to take a step forward. If you look at the beginning of his career, he ran poorly first time out, and then he won second time out. So maybe he's one of those horses that kind of runs himself into shape.
You got anybody else we need to talk about in this race?
I picked the 6th, but it was almost one of the default thing. If you're going to try to beat the 8, you got to try to beat him with, I think, a couple of different.
I'm not sure what to do with Lots of Trouble. I'm not going to hold his last race against him. He really didn't have any chance in there, but he got such a good trip when he won 2 back against Lesser. That was my problem, but yeah. I think I had him 5th, and I could see him. We'll see what happens in race number 9. We close it out, and Vakinda, who is becoming one of the biggest money burners on the grounds. One thing I'll say about this last race, and I think America's Back, the 6th, ran fine in here and could certainly improve. I do think Vakinda's a little bit against it last time. I think that speed was good this day, and I think that he was compromised a little bit by the track, but aren't we just getting a little tired of him?
I'm not going to be shocked if he wins. I was been supportive the last 2 times, and I can't at what the price projects to be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think, the horse that you and I have picked, and we'll actually go to the replay of Share the Loot, 2 starts back from Mel Giddings down in Florida. I mean, last time out against Tapan Street, he was completely eliminated at the break and basically eased. You can dismiss his last race, and I like the switch to Christopher Elliott.
My only fear is this horse has broken slowly twice. And that's the only
fair.
thing that I hesitated. But if they, still, even
this race,
3 races back ran extremely well. Just better than these other horses. They break cleanly. You know, if I'm alive to this horse in the last, they break clean. I'll take a deep breath and see what happens.
I'll tell you something. This is the Melo Gibbsings horse going to take a lot of money. I don't know that Dia Romano should be completely ignored because if you get rid of the synthetic and the turf race, you've got a horse that finished behind Cyclone State, who at the time was running well, and he got a 62 buyer going a mile first time out. It's not impossible a horse like that can run a 70 here. You know what I mean? So I think that horse shouldn't be completely ignored. And the 1 and 6 are sort of logicals, but I'm looking at the 9 and 12 as other horses as upsetters in here. But before we leave, I've been waiting to ask you who Alan Turing is. The horse that 2 is named for.
Oh, I've got no idea.
What's really sad about that is that thing you're looking at right there and that thing over there, those computers, he's the father of the computer.
Oh, is he the guy that...
He's the man.
Oh, the father of the computer.
I think it's possible that he's the greatest, one of the greatest heroes in the history of the world. He's the man responsible for solving Enigma. You should watch the Imitation Game. He solved the Enigma code during World War II, which they estimate took about 4 or 5 years off the war and saved maybe 10 or more million lives. So Alan Turing is one of the greatest individuals of all time. So if you take nothing away from the talking horses, and he's basically the designer of the computer, and of course,
well, I'm a huge fan of the computer.
Yes, Alan Turing, one of the greatest heroes in the history of the world. Anyway, we're done. Jonathan, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Great day, Gotham Day, excited. Head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member, use the promo code MATCH200. We'll match with $200 of your initial deposit. Check out Track Stats when you're over there as well. We also have a bankroll builder for the Gotham today. Bet 50 to win in the Gotham. And boy, Eddie's on his game. You really are. You really have the big game. You probably got to bed before 4 in the morning last night. $20 for the Derby. We've got a cross-country Big 5 that starts out with the Gotham, ends with the Down the Dusty Road. It also includes that interesting 9th race allowance race here. And last but not least, 2 to 555 on FS2 covering most of the action today. We're done.
That's good news for the train, that 55 out.
Yeah, it's good for you.
It's good news.
The thing that's amazing about the TV show is no matter what day of the week it is, whatever it is, there's always a train that's leaving approximately 3 minutes after. And Oaklawn, you may have noticed, doesn't do a great job of exactly sticking to their post time. So there are some tense moments on the air. We're done. Chris Griffin has a big day ahead of him. He's up next in the reprise, the Scratch and Changes. Have a great day.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Aqueduct. At this time, we ask you to please rise, remove your caps as we honor America with the playing of the national anthem. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the New York Racing Association. Live racing here at Aqueduct. 10 races on today's Saturday afternoon card. It's Gotham Day. The track is rated fast, and here are today's scratches and changes at Aqueduct. Race 1 started the early pick 5. Scratch the 4, Kings and Queens. The 7 is a Ridgeling. There is an overweight there in today's first. We'll get that for you in just a moment. Race 2 started the early pick 4. Is clear. No changes in today's second. Race 3. Scratch the 2, Despo's Dream. The 8 will wear a hood. Race 4 started the middle pick 4. No changes in today's fourth. Race 4 showing clear. Race 5 started the pick 6. Race 5 is clear. Race 6 started the late pick 5. Again, there is an overweight there in today's 6th. We'll get that up there for you in just a moment for today's 6th. Race 7 started late pick 4. Scratch the 7, Nilo's Rose. Scratch the 7 in race 7. Race 8, scratch the 1, Scorching. Scratch the 1 in today's 8th race. In race 9, scratch the 1, My Last Mission. Scratch the 1 in race number 9. And in race 10, scratch the 4, Perfect Shepherd. Scratch the 4 in race number 10, and there will be an updated overweight there in the 10th. We'll get that to you in just a moment. Race 1, 27 minutes away. Started the early pick 5. The track is rated fast. 10 races here at Aqueduct. Good luck.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more.